In this video, we're going to talk about some of the things successful no-code app entrepreneurs wish they had known and wish they had done before they had gotten started with their app. Now, these are things that would have helped them move a lot more quickly and really just see traction with their apps and with their businesses a lot sooner. Now, make sure you stick around until the end because the last one is by far my favorite and often the most impactful. Now, first, if you're new around here, my name is Kristen, and I'm the co-founder of Coaching No Code Apps, where we help business owners and industry experts build custom apps to either start their app-based businesses or grow their existing businesses, all without coding and with no technical background required. So, what are some of those really important things that successful app entrepreneurs wish they would have done at the very start? Well, first and foremost, a lot of them have told us that they wish they had just started with a plan. It's pretty simple, but it makes a massive difference. You really need to know what you're building. And I'm not just talking about your app idea. Everybody knows generally what your app idea is, but you have to know what specifically to build and when, what to prioritize, how to split that full scope app idea that you have, how to split that up into different development phases, when to launch certain phases, when to test, when to get feedback. Having a plan or having a roadmap. This is something that so many entrepreneurs wish they would have done at the start because it allows you to not only move a lot more quickly because you don't have to make a lot of decisions along the way, but it lets you get everything out with a lot of clarity right from the start so that you can really build some initial momentum up and then continue with that momentum instead of seeing a bunch of peaks and valleys, if that makes sense. If you don't have a plan when you're starting, you might make a bunch of momentum really early on because you're really excited, but then once you're hit with a bunch of decisions, all that momentum comes back down, right? So it kind of goes up and down. We want it to go up and then to stay at that level or continue to go up from there. And just having a plan can help you do that. Now, we won't go into how to create a roadmap in this video. We have a bunch of other videos that kind of go into different pieces of that. So definitely check those out. But first and foremost, just have a plan when you're moving forward. It's going to make a massive difference for your overall success. Now, the second thing is to just stop wasting time and get started. This is another one that sounds simple, and really it is, but a lot of people and myself included, I've fallen victim to this as well, but a lot of people just get into that planning stage in their minds and they have a really hard time leaving it because they're trying to think of every single little detail that could possibly ever come into play, right? And so many entrepreneurs talk to us about this, how they, before they ever got started with the actual development of their app, they were planning it for 1 year, 3 years, 10 years, and more. I mean, so much planning. But the reality is this: if you have enough information to solve one core problem for one core user type, you have enough to build your app, to launch your app, to start generating a revenue. So instead of trying to plan for every single little detail before you ever really get started, just get enough to solve that first problem for that first user and do it. Just do it. Stop wasting time. Get started, because once you do solve that problem, that's when everything really starts. That's when you start building real traction, because that's when you start getting feedback. And that's the thing that'll drive you forward. All right. So the next thing is, if you have a goal of monetizing or scaling the app you're building, build with that in mind. This is one of the regrets that we see a lot of entrepreneurs having. They they're learning as they go. They're learning as they build. They're kind of doing just sort of like an endless cycle of trial and error. They're piecing things together in their app. They're creating duct tape solutions. They have sort of like a Frankenstein esque app by the end of it. And that simply does not scale. And so what happens is a lot of these entrepreneurs end up having to just go back, restart the whole thing, and just rebuild the whole app. And it wastes a lot of time and obviously a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and all of that. You don't want that. And so if your goal is to monetize and scale the app you're building, you really want to learn how to build with that in mind, because there are tons of ways to build different features and different functionality. Lots of different ways to essentially do the same thing. But not all of those will work once the app starts to scale. So the things might work now when you're just testing by yourself, or if you're just kind of tinkering by yourself, but once you start scaling, they won't. So you have to build with that in mind if your immediate goal is to really start building traction, to really start monetizing the app and growing it into something more, so that you don't end up getting to the other side and having to then just start all over. Okay, so that's a really important one to keep in mind. Now, the the next one is start thinking about your users before you need them. This is one that so many people forget, and the way we see this impacting a lot of entrepreneurs is the only thing they're focusing on is their idea and just building all the different little features and sort of sub ideas they have within that idea. They just tinker. They're really excited about the technical components of their idea, but they're not really thinking about their users. And we see a lot of people regretting this, because what happens is, okay, let's say they build their app, they build this first version, and it's fine, that it's scalable and all of that, but they haven't taken a moment to think about their users yet. But now they really need them, because now they're at a point where the next step is to bring the users on board. But instead of being able to just move seamlessly into that step, instead they have to stop and experience this really big pause, where now they kind of find themselves backtracking, not on the technical side, but on the user side, which is obviously very important. And they just experience a lot of delays with that. And what we really want to see is for you to be able to build the app in a scalable way and build the right things at the right time for the right users, but then be able to move seamlessly into actually releasing that to users, bringing your beta users on board, getting feedback from them. You want that transition to be really seamless. So the thing you need to think about is to start thinking about your users before you actually need them. Now, what does that mean? Well, it can be pretty simple. Start having conversations with your potential users. What you really need to be doing is figuring out what their biggest problems are, and not only what the problems are, but how they describe those problems and what the consequences of those problems are. What your potential users or your target market, what their needs are, what they want in an ideal solution, what the outcome is that they are looking for, and the words they use to describe these things, the effects that these outcomes can have on their lives or on their businesses. You really kind of start to get into their heads a little bit, so that not only, it not only allows you to build your app for them in the right way, but it lets you have effective conversations with them. It lets you create effective messaging. So again, while you're building that first version, you can be having those conversations, you can be creating that messaging, you can be connecting with them, so that you're already set up to just move into the testing phases with them on the other side. So try to avoid having that same regret that a lot of other people do, where you don't think about the users until you need them. Think about them earlier on, and always move forward with them in mind, with your users in mind. All right, so that brings me to the last one, and this is one that we hear a lot from a lot of entrepreneurs, really consistently too. It's to get over your perfectionism. And I've talked about this before, and I am someone who has always been a perfectionist, and I know that lots of entrepreneurs also are, and you might be too. If you are a perfectionist, get over it. Do your best to get over it. What we hear a lot of people saying is while they were creating their app, while they were releasing their app, they were testing it while they were launching it, they thought they had gotten over their perfectionism. They thought they had gotten into that mentality where they needed to be moving quickly and kind of overlooking some of those imperfections. They thought that. But on the other side, they realized that they could have done so much better of a job with it. And I encourage you to take this to heart. Get over your perfectionism because the reality is an imperfect solution is better than no solution at all. If you are a perfectionist and you are trying to maintain that perfectionism with your app, you're going to have a hard time launching ever. That's just the reality. You're going to have a hard time ever putting something into users' hands because in your mind, it'll never be good enough. But keep in mind that your users or your target market, they need a solution. They have a problem. They need a solution because they need a certain outcome. Now, if your imperfect app can solve that problem for them, even if it's not completely perfect, if it can solve that problem for them, that is better than not solving the problem at all. And that can not only solve their problem and improve their businesses or their lives, but it can help you build traction much earlier with your application and your business as well. So do your best to get over your perfectionism. All right, so those are some of the biggest regrets, or rather just things that successful app entrepreneurs wish they had done and wish they had known before they started building their apps. And I hope that's helpful for you too. Now, if you're getting started with your app, or if you've already started and you want to make sure you're headed in the right direction, we have a free training that you can join in on, and it's going to help you lay those first foundational pieces on how to create some strategy around your app, how to look at some of the technical components, and really just how to make sure you're moving forward in the right direction efficiently with your app. Now, if you want to join in on that training, it's completely free. You can head to coachingnocodeapps.com/workshop and sign up for it there. So we hope to see you there. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.